The deadlift is one of the most technical movements there is, and I do not recommend it for beginners. It's definitely an advanced movement. I'm gonna do my best to break this down into individual pieces. As you are learning this, I recommend starting light, and I also recommend implementing one thing at a time and not trying to do everything at once. Our goal with the deadlift is to take a dead weight, a weight that's on the floor, that's not bouncing, not moving, anything like that, and pulling it up and standing in an upright position. And so a couple key indicators here. First and foremost is foot positioning. The best thing that you can do is, as if you were gonna jump as high as you possibly could, that's gonna be the positioning of your feet, because that's where you're gonna generate the most power. Typically it's gonna be shoulder width. Some people are gonna be a little bit wider, a little bit closer in, but your hands are going on the outside of your legs, so you don't wanna be in a sumo position where your feet are all the way out here. When you prep for this movement, you wanna make sure that standing above the bar and looking down, the bar is directly above your shoelaces. We don't want the bar touching our shins, because our shins are actually gonna drive forward when we bend the knees. And we don't wanna be all the way back here because the weight's gonna be offloaded, which is gonna make it much harder. So prepping for this movement, couple cues. Number one, your arms are not pulling. Your arms are just these meat sticks that are hooking to the bar. They're staying stiff. Your hips, your glutes, your back is gonna do most of the pulling. Next thing to focus on is keeping the hips low, starting the movement with a leg press, meaning pushing through the legs. And then when you get past the knees, that's when you can start to pull with the back and drive those hips through. But this is mostly a leg press movement. The bottom portion of the movement is gonna be a little bit slower. Your goal is not to pull this as quick as you possibly can. It's to push through the floor to get past those knees so you can drive the hips forward. I'm gonna do a rep or two, and then I'm gonna go into the next cues. So down, hips down, arms are just these meat sticks, and we're gonna drive through the floor and drive those hips through. Down, reset, I'm not bouncing. Pull, push, drive through. Okay, so we got foot positioning, we've got arms, we've got hips down. Next two cues, we wanna keep our head neutral. We don't wanna be cranking the neck. So when we're down here, we don't wanna be looking at ourselves in the mirror. We wanna just find a spot at the floor. And then as we drive up, just allow the eyes to just follow that path. Keep that head neutral. And then the other cue is pulling the slack out of the bar. So if you notice, before the weights even make it off the ground, you hear a little clicking movement. That's pulling the slack, which is what we call it, which is basically pulling all of the tension out of the bar so that you can now make a very fluid motion. Instead of making the tension, hitting the resistance of the weight, and now having a little extra pressure on yourself. So when you piece these things together, you are driving the hips down, the shins are gonna come forward, they might touch the bar at this point, pull the slack out of the bar, keep those arms stiff, head neutral, push into the floor with your feet. When you get past your knees, drive those hips through.